From WDI Communications, this is the Quarterly Report. I'm Tony Hatch. In this report, you'll learn about the ambitious project the Walt Disney Company intends to open near Washington, D.C., Disney's America. You'll visit the White House to meet President Bill Clinton, the first sitting chief executive to appear in the Hall of Presidents at Walt Disney World. You'll get an update as the Tower of Terror rises in Florida, and you'll go below as the submarine Nautilus sets sail for France. All this coming up on the Quarterly Report as we ring out the 40th anniversary year of Walt Disney Imagineering. When the story finally broke last month, it was one of the biggest in Washington, D.C., a city that has seen its share of major stories. Disney's America. Shrouded in secrecy, the project is to be located southeast of the nation's capital in northern Virginia, near the rural village of Haymarket. It would be the third Disney park in the United States and would open in 1998. The creative team for Disney's America is headed by Senior Vice President Bob Weiss.
The idea is to build a regional park. It is not in any way a Walt Disney World or a Disneyland. It is a small-scale regional park. And the intent is to build a park which is a fundamental part of what a family's experience of traveling to see Washington, D.C. is going to be about. So if you pack up your family, you go to Washington, D.C., you want to see the monuments, you want to see the Smithsonian, you want to see all the history and all the activities of government, you were able to see all those things in Washington, but we wanted to build a complement to that where you can come and experience them all, role play in all of them, play an active role, and see and feel and be a part of history. So you'll come here, you'll be able to have rides, shows, interactive experiences that are both about the history of America, they're about America today, and they're also going to give you a sense of America in the future.
Disney's America is divided into 9 territories. Crossroads, USA is where you enter. It's a Civil War-era village reflecting a time when canal boats were still competing with railroads for traffic, when something new called the department store was just making an appearance, and when news moved with the speed of the telegraph. Visitors may stay in hotel rooms outside the berm or in special suites overlooking the canals inside the park. It is from Crossroads, USA that visitors can either head forward or backward in time. Heading back into history is President's Square, focusing on the struggle of the colonists and the war for independence. A new Hall of Presidents will be located here with its audio animatronics presentation of all our chief executives and the story of the building of the nation. Native America explores the life of this continent's first inhabitants. The Powhatan tribe lived in this area of Virginia, and Native America will have an authentically restored village representing that and other eastern tribes. Native America will also feature a Lewis and Clark whitewater raft expedition through whirlpools and rapids. Many historians believe the Civil War was the dividing point in the development of this nation, and it is a Civil War fort which becomes the next guest experience. Historically, it's in the correct location because not many miles from the park is the Manassas Battlefield, also known as Bull Run, where one of the first major battles of the Civil War was fought. Inside the fort, a Circle Vision 360-degree film will put guests in the middle of such a battle, and outside will be staged authentic reenactments of military engagements. At night, the fort will become the backdrop for the classic confrontation between the Monitor and the Merrimack, the 2 Civil War ironclads that forever changed the way naval battles would be fought. We the People will be a powerful multimedia experience showing the diversity of American culture, all housed inside a building which looks like Ellis Island, New York. The exhibits will also explore subjects like slavery and the Vietnam War. Enterprise is a factory town which will show America's creative spirit from inventions to innovations. The town itself represents the Industrial Revolution, which also happens to be the name of the park's major thrill attraction, a high-speed adventure through a turn-of-the-century mill, culminating in a narrow escape from a fiery vat of molten steel. Victory Field will not only call attention to America's preeminent position in the field of aviation, but show how Americans from diverse backgrounds fought to preserve freedom in numerous wars since the founding of the Republic. Victory Field will also have an interactive venue, allowing guests to experience flying jet fighters or operating tanks, or possibly even parachuting from a plane as part of basic training. State Fair celebrates small-town America during the Depression era, with its throwback to a wooden roller coaster and Ferris wheel, and a ballpark show involving heroes from an earlier era. Finally, there's Family Farm, saluting the American farmer and others who work the land. Crops will be harvested, and guests will be invited to participate in cow milking or making ice cream, and for more entertainment, there'll be a country wedding, barn dance, and buffet. Again, Bob Weiss.
It is somewhat of an extension of what we started to do with the studio tour and what others have started to do, began with Epcot, which is to combine education and entertainment in a new way and to try to strike a balance between a very cognitive, issues-oriented park and something that is still repeatable and fun and interesting, and lots of teenagers want to come and ride rides and that sort of thing. So that's a challenge. It will be a challenge because we have lots of new historical ground here to cover, to research and to figure out how to sort through the huge historical library of what America is about and try to find icons that we can recreate. I think a big challenge is going to make sure that we're fair to really represent the ethnic diversity of America and the contributions that everyone has made to this, and also to fairly represent things that are negative about America, things that have been tough issues that we either have overcome or have never been able to overcome and are still struggles. If we build a nice little park that is about American history, we will have failed. And what is most important about this park is we have to go out and build alliances with important groups that are defining what America is about today or have defined it in the past and represent them well. And those alliances and educational alliances are going to make this park have a lot of breadth to it.
Bob Weiss. There's a new star in the Hall of Presidents at Walt Disney World, and it shouldn't be any surprise that it's the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. President Bill Clinton becomes the first sitting chief executive to speak to guests at the Florida attraction. Show producer Rick Rothschild headed the effort to create the new show.
We owe the guests the most accurate view we can provide, and because we're dealing, with any audio animatronic figure that is of a human being versus a character, there's a difference in how you approach them. You're obviously trying to make them believably human.
The first step in the making of the president literally began with his head, and master sculptor Blaine Gibson, who came out of retirement in Sedona, Arizona to work on it, as he had so many other chief executives.
One of the things that I observed about Clinton, and I started making little simple drawings of Bill Clinton, and I noticed that he had a very oval face, and this was the dominant thing. That was the absolute abstract essence that had to be considered. And then another thing was the way his hair seemed to fit his skull into a cap, being very close and coming in right here and here. And another thing that I observed about him was that he had a natural tendency to jut his chin forward a little bit. And I didn't want to just have it out there because this was not a thing that was always fixed on him, but I wanted to get enough of that so that there would be a characteristic of one of his main poses, so to speak.
How are you?
While Blaine worked on the head, a group of Imagineers headed by Rothschild and writer Justin Siegel headed to the White House to record remarks by the president.
My fellow citizens, we are the heirs of the great American Revolution. As this millennium draws to a close and the 21st century approaches, let us pause to honor the very idea of America. Today, our nation stands as a symbol of freedom and an inspiration to people all around the world. There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America. and there is nothing wrong with the world that cannot be cured by the ideals that America represents. The spirit of America is as bright and hopeful today as it was in July of 1776, and we are ready to carry our great national experiment forward into the next millennium.
No stranger to microphones or cameras, President Clinton completed his remarks in only 2 takes. The chief executive even took time to sign autographs, one of them for Rick's daughter.
He signed for me, actually for my daughter, a certificate that she received last spring participating in the Presidential Physical Fitness Program, which is a national program for school children, and she won the highest award in her 5th grade level. It said, to Jillian, congratulations, Bill Clinton, and then he signed the date.
And what was Jillian's reaction?
It was sort of interesting because she actually said, well, you didn't get Hillary too?
Even while the president was being recorded, an Imagineering group from Tahunga was busy putting together the Clinton figure. One of Clinton's hands had to be reconfigured to accommodate the president's mannerism of using a clenched fist to emphasize a point, a fact noted by Rick during the recording session.
My name is Sean Conway. I work at mechanical manufacturing at the Tahunga facility, and what we're doing right now is trying to put together President Clinton's left hand to get the gesture that he gives as he speaks. It's a little bit different than what we normally do. And our normal functions or normal figures, the hand would be something like this and would just open and close like this. To get this particular gesture, what we have to do is bring these 3 fingers in a little bit more tightly than is normal, while leaving his index finger out and to close the thumb up around that to give this type of a style. So what I've done is to bend these in, and now we're bringing this up, and I think we've almost got it. Got the look.
All right. Are you all set?
Yes.
Though unseen at the new Hall of Presidents, another star of the show is the distinguished writer, Dr. Maya Angelou, who recorded a narration for the program.
We, the people. With these words from the Declaration of Independence, we defined ourselves as a nation.
The WDI team recorded her in a studio on the East Coast, not far from where Professor Angelou teaches at Wake Forest University.
Without that dream, we would not be Americans.
The quest for democracy must continue until all the people of the world enjoy the freedom we must always fight to preserve. The spirit of America is as bright and hopeful today as it was in July of 1776, and we are ready to carry our great national experiment forward into the next millennium.
When the show opened last month, Dr. Angelou's narration and the new remarks by Clinton and Abraham Lincoln were greeted with a long round of applause by journalists who were there to attend Mickey's 65th birthday observance. Again, Rick Rothschild.
The issues of equality in the United States that we're so focused on now with this new show, I think and I hope by having condensed it as we have and refocused the direction of it, that it is not only meaningful to and more meaningful to adults that see the show, but perhaps a touch more relevant to our guests of all ages. The issues of equality in the United States that we're so focused on now with this new show is obviously a very understandable issue to children my daughter's age and older as well as adults. And I think the other thing of just meeting the president, most people don't have obviously the opportunity that I and the rest of the crew had, and even when you go on the White House tour, you hope maybe you'll get a glimpse of the president, but most people go to Washington and don't even get as close as we are going to be able to put people to the president, and I think that's pretty meaningful, even in the context of the Magic Kingdom.
Show producer Rick Rothschild. Elsewhere in Walt Disney World, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is on the rise. With its special elevator motors hauled into place this fall, the fated Hollywood Tower Hotel is beginning to take shape. The building, with a commanding presence, which can be seen from quite a distance, is being worked on by construction crews supervised by WDI on all-day shifts, 7 days a week. It's from the top of this building where guests will get a brief view of the park before they plunge from the 13th story to the ground in what will likely be one of the most memorable rides in any theme park anywhere. Finally, the Nautilus submarine, a walk-through attraction destined for Euro Disney outside of Paris, will arrive in France this month. The sub's interior was completed last month under the supervision of show designer Tim Delaney, with help from Tom Sherman.
It's probably the greatest kids' playhouse that we've all enjoyed building. We took scenes like from in the movie when Nemo demonstrated to Kirk Douglas that he uses treasure as ballast. So of course we had to have a treasure room because there's always magic in that. Going into Nemo's cabin, we chose that because we knew that would be a rich, elegant interior design, and it really represented the contrast between the Victorian style of his bedroom versus the ironclad qualities of the ship. So there's a good contrast there. We choose also the chart room because that was the nerve center of the ship, and I think that really kind of shows the scientific aspects of the boat. The next scene, which I remember very vividly from the walkthrough at Disneyland, and especially from the movie, is the dive chamber. In the dive chamber here, it separates the technical part of the chart room with the salon. So we've got water crashing on the inside with dive suits hanging there, and it takes on a whole different flavor. And overall, that was our purpose of laying out the submarine the way we did, so each scene had its own very distinct flavor. The next scene after that is Nemo's Grand Salon, and clearly this is the pièce de résistance. Really the contrast between the Victorian interior and this ironclad boat really comes together here. So the great thing about this piece, and again it's that contrast between the warlike and the destructive type qualities of the submarine, and here he has his big pipe organ here. I think that this was Captain Nemo's way of exercising his alter ego, that kind of frenzied side of his personality. And then the last thing we had to do is put the engine room in, and that's part of the show, because after the squid attack, the engine room's been destroyed, or it's been damaged, I should say. So we wanted to make that, again, another contrasting scene. So I think the way it's laid out and the experiences you go through, each scene shows a contrast, yet it has a consistency as you walk through, is really, I think that's really the key as to what makes this thing so fun.
Tim Delaney on the Nautilus submarine. And that's the quarterly report ending the year 1993. From all of us at WDI Communications, we wish you a Happy New Year. We'll see you next quarter.